Alright, here we go. Day number 3, last 4 rounds of the NFL Draft for 2014. Looking for some of those diamonds in the rough and some of the guys who kind of slipped, who people thought might be a first couple of day pick. So hopefully we can add some good guys to the team today and kind of keep it a little bit more exciting than we had yesterday when all we had was the one pick very early on. So we'll kind of see what happens. You know, maybe a guy like Telvin Smith, maybe Justin Ellis, the D tackle, maybe in the 4th round here, and then kind of see where we go as we go into the 5th, and then we currently don't have a 6th, and then we'll be very busy as it stands right now in the 7th round. So here we go. Alright, we are at pick 119 in the 4th round. We are at Dallas's first pick of day number 3. Looks like the biggest name up at the top of the board is Telvin Smith, the outside backer from Florida State, who there seems to be a lot of connections with Dallas. So I'm going to say that might be the pick right now. That's going to kind of be my guess just at the onset, but we'll see what they do.
The Dallas Cowboys select Anthony Hitchens, linebacker from Iowa. Anthony Hitchens, the
Anthony Hitchens, linebacker, Iowa. I'll admit I've never heard of him, so we'll see. Trust the scout's judgment on this one. Okay, in the 5th round now, and Dallas has traded up to pick number 146. Not really sure where we're going to go at this point. I've been watching the War Room cam. I've seen some offensive coaches kind of ruffling around in there. Maybe a wide receiver, maybe a quarterback. I'm not sure. You know, still a bunch of quarterbacks on the board. McCarron, Murray, Mettenberger. Got some wide receivers, so let's see what we do. Actually, it's about to come up on the screen right now, so give me just a second. Devin Street, the wide receiver from Pittsburgh. I've heard the guys talking on the radio about this guy as being highly ranked on the board, so not entirely surprised by this. So gives us another wide receiver, probably a 3rd guy to go along with Dez and Terrence Williams. So what do we think? Wide receiver out of Pittsburgh, Devin Street. Alright, so we are finally at the beginning of round 7. Feels like forever since the last Cowboys pick, which was early on in round 5. So far we've taken the linebacker out of Iowa and Devin Street, the wide receiver out of Pitt. So just kind of looking around at what's still on the board for the beginning of the 7th round and kind of where we've seen on Twitter some names going around. A couple of guys were ranked relatively high still. Christian Jones, the other linebacker from Florida State. Jeff Coat from Texas. Kelsey Quarles, the tackle from South Carolina. All still there. One of the names I've been seeing on Twitter from some of the guys in Dallas is Ken Bishop, I believe his name is. One of the D tackle from Northern Illinois. It's another big guy, so still a relatively decent amount of guys left. Don't think there's going to be a whole lot of late round quarterback possibilities. We just saw Aaron Gilbert go. Taj Boyd just went. I think the boys, or the Cowboys, showed some interest in what's his face, Connor Shaw from South Carolina at some point, so he might be a late round flyer. Wouldn't be surprised really if we maybe took a punter here with one of these picks, because we've got 5 picks in this round, 3 of which we can't trade. So could maybe see one of those compensatory picks going to be a punter. But it'll be interesting to see. There's definitely a decent amount of guys all over the place to maybe find some of those late round gems. So check back in with the Dallas, with the Cowboys' first pick of the 7th round. Alright, we are at the Cowboys' first pick of the 7th round. Everybody I mentioned when I introed the 7th round is still there. The name I keep hearing kind of is the Ken Bishop guy from Northern Illinois. Watching the War Room, I've seen defensive coaches kind of wandering around in front of the camera, so I'm thinking it's defense. Got a couple more minutes with them on the clock. They're making the call, so they know who they've got. So let's see who it is.
Type of football.
Okay, Rod Marinelli's on the phone. We definitely know it's a defensive guy. So let's see. Should be finding out here in just a few minutes. Or just a second, actually.
University of Massachusetts. The Dallas Cowboys select Ben Gardner, defensive end, Stanford. There you go.
Ben Gardner, defensive end from Stanford. Pick number 1 in the 7th round. Alright folks, 6 picks later, we are now at Dallas' second 7th round selection. I'm looking at the War Room cam, and they are on the phone, so they've picked somebody. So we'll see what they do. We took Ben Gardner from Stanford a few picks ago, and I'm trying to get a look at maybe which position coach they're going to hand the phone to, so I can kind of have an idea of who this might be. So, patience. Okay, so just saw it pop up on the screen. It is Will Smith, the linebacker from Texas Tech. I'm not too familiar with this one either. I do recognize the name, but don't know too much about it. Not a name I've been hearing them talk about on Twitter or on the radio shows, but Will Smith, cool name, newest Dallas Cowboy. Alright, so almost at the end of the 7th round. We are at the first of Dallas's 3 compensatory picks. So we hold 3 of the next 7 selections. So we'll see what we're going to do here. I've seen a lot of discussions on the War Room cam with Scott Linehan, so I would think it's something on the offensive side of the ball. Don't ask me to figure out who that might be. It seems like unless they're ready to pull the trigger on like a late round quarterback, developmental quarterback, I can't imagine it'd be another receiver at this point. Maybe like a late round offensive lineman, although that seems like that the stock on that has pretty much been picked over. Could be a late round running back. I don't know. At this point, it's hard to tell with all the stuff that's left on the board, but it is looking like it might be something offensively related, but that could all be a smokescreen. So let's see. Oop, actually, nope. I'm just seeing it on the TV. It's Ahmad Dixon, the safety from Baylor. So we decided to take a late round flyer on another safety. Definitely, that's a bigger name that most people have heard. So the Linehan thing may have been looking at one of their next picks, because 3 more picks from now we pick again, and then 3 picks after that we pick again. So Ahmad Dixon, safety, Baylor, your newest Dallas Cowboy, and probably be back in a few minutes for the next one. Okay, on the clock for Dallas's second compensatory pick. Big news, we just saw Michael Sam drafted by the Rams. So with that, any talk about maybe the Cowboys taking a chance on him with one of our remaining 2 picks is gone. So we'll see what happens. They're on the phone with the pick right now. Nothing yet coming up on the screen about the pick being in. Lots of guys standing up in the War Room, so not sure. Haven't seen which coach they're going to give it to, so not sure which side of the ball this is. We should find out here in just a few seconds. Okay, well, Rod Marinelli is on the phone with whoever the newest pick is, and it's about to come up on the screen. So let's see here who we got. Oh, it's Ken Bishop, the defensive tackle from Northern Illinois. I had mentioned I'd seen the Twitter people on that talking about that, heard it on the radio shows. Big guy, about 6 foot 305. Probably the one technique would be my guess. Maybe is where they're kind of trying to push him at. But so that's a name we've probably heard of. So there we go. Got a defensive tackle, big boy in the middle there, and then 3 more picks to go, and then we've got our last pick of the 2014 draft. Stay tuned. All right, so it looks like they are on the phone now with whoever this last pick is going to be. And it says that the pick is in. I'm looking on the TV screen, so we should find out here in just a second who it is. And here we go. So, looks like Terrence Mitchell, the corner out of Oregon. I had seen our DB's coach kind of up with them on the board, and there was talk that maybe they were looking at the potential free agents, but we decided to take Terrence Mitchell out of Oregon. So don't really know much about this one, so I'll have to look into that. But that is it. That's our last pick in the draft. So now it's on to undrafted free agents. So we will see what the boys do there. Alrighty, so now that the draft is over, kind of run down what we ended up doing for the Cowboys this year and kind of some preliminary thoughts. So obviously round 1, Zach Martin, the guard from Notre Dame. Round 2, we traded up to get DeMarcus Lawrence, the end from Boise State. No pick in round 3 because we traded that up for Lawrence. Round 4 is where we ended up taking Anthony Hitchens, the linebacker out of Iowa. Probably the most, I guess, controversial pick of the draft just because of where some people said he was rated, but from what we hear, the Cowboys had him rated in the 4th round. Then we took Devin Street from Pittsburgh, the wide receiver, traded up in the 5th for him. And then we had our run on defense in the 7th round. So we took Ben Gardner, the end from Stanford. We took Will Smith, the linebacker from Texas Tech. Then we took Ahmad Dixon, the safety out of Baylor. Ken Bishop, the nose tackle from Northern Illinois. And then Terrence Mitchell, the corner out of Oregon. So what do we think? I think Martin was a solid pick. Obviously there's the big hoopla about the fact that Johnny Football was on the board, but because of the money we owe Romo and everything else, I didn't really see, Manziel as a legitimate pick for us there, and I think Martin is a good pick, helps solidify the offensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence, we needed that rush end, especially with Ware gone now. I'm probably in the same boat as a lot of fans. I'm not sure I was wanting to give up that 3rd round pick. But if they had him as the highest rated right defensive end left, and the talk was that Atlanta was going to scoop him up, and then you can't really fault him, I guess, because if that's the guy they needed, that's the guy they wanted, then they even said they slightly overpaid, but that's the guy they wanted. So that one's going to kind of be a wait and see, and we'll see how well he does. Wide receiver, still probably going to be a 3rd or 4th receiver. So we'll kind of see how that goes, but definitely looking from production and everything else, should be a solid guy as a receiver for us. Hitchens, the linebacker, is going to be kind of the other one that people look at, like I mentioned, because of his value according to certain draft experts. Looks like he'll kind of be like a middle linebacker, Sam linebacker prospect. Definitely going to be a special teams guy, so this can be a kind of wait and see. As I get into the next week, I'll be looking at the tape on a lot of these guys, and I'll probably have a better idea of it for you then. Let's see, who else? We go into all the guys from the 7th round. So I really like the Ben Gardner pick out of Stanford. Seems like the kind of guy we want on our defensive line. And just from the little tweets and different interview clips I heard from him this afternoon, he's got a big chip on his shoulder from where he was drafted. And it sounds like a lot of the reason that he slipped down was because he's been recovering from the pectoral injury. So, assuming that's all healed up, and just from the reports I've read about him, I think he could be a solid guy in our defensive line rotation. Will Smith out of Texas Tech. Another guy I don't really know a whole lot about, so I can give my thoughts on him specifically later. Ahmad Dixon was kind of the bigger name from the 7th round, the safety out of Baylor. From everything I've heard, a very emotional kid about being drafted by Dallas, and kind of a hard-hitting safety, so it kind of puts just another guy to add into our kind of pool of safeties there. He sounds more like a strong safety type to me. So again, that'll be kind of a wait and see what happens in camp and in preseason and everything else, see where he might fit. Ken Bishop from Northern Illinois, probably the guy I'm most excited about besides Gardner in the 7th round, just because this is that big body, kind of just giant human to put in the middle of the line. And read good reports about him, so I'll be interested to watch the tape on him because I haven't really seen a whole lot. And then I don't really know much about Terrence Mitchell out of Oregon, the corner there, but from what I've seen, a lot of people had him rated in their top 100 players, and to get him in the 7th round seems like a very good value for us. And we'll kind of see how he does. The Pac-12 is a big passing conference. So he would have had a lot of experience dealing with the spread and dealing with a lot of open offenses and passing offenses. So that should bode well, at least, for him to be able to kind of get in there and hopefully maybe compete to be one of the, like, a fourth, fifth corner. So now we're in the stage of getting into a lot of the undrafted free agents. Just from Twitter, there's a lot of guys already popping up with their names. So probably once we actually get the list, I'll look into that, and won't go into too much of that right now because it's constantly being updated and nothing's official yet. So, but overall, should be from the outside looking in a pretty solid draft. It's going to kind of hinge on a couple of guys: DeMarcus Lawrence's production, what Hutchins, the linebacker, does, and then kind of what we get out of these guys in the 7th round. But should be exciting, and we got the rookie mini camp coming up next week, so we should hopefully get some stories out of the Cowboys from that. And yeah, I will be back next time with either the list of undrafted free agents or with kind of the first film review over the guys we've been picking. So until then, see you later, and go Cowboys.